All right, hello everybody. So this is going to be a review video for the muscles of the hip. So most of the muscles acting on the hip and some that are also acting on the knee. So I've already labeled all the muscles. We're starting on the anterior view. So go ahead and you can pause the video and ID the muscles. So each of them have a number and a couple letters associated with them. So I wrote a little key at the top. A indicates that you should write down the ID, so the name of the muscle. B means name the actions of that muscle, and C is the innervation, so the nerve that innervates that muscle. So most of them have, I want you to indicate all of those things. There's just a couple of exceptions. So go ahead and pause the video. Try to do this all on your own. Get a piece of paper out, write them down. It's really going to help a lot. You're going to learn a lot more if you do it that way, and we will go through them. So pause now, and when you're ready, you can start the video again and listen into the review. All right. All right, so hopefully you went through and did that on your own. And now we're gonna go through some of those answers. So I will write down abbreviations for the IDs, and I will say out loud the actions and innervations because it would take up a little too much room to write that all out. So pay attention and try to see if your answers match up with mine. All right, so number one, we have the Psoas Major. All right. And so we're looking for ID and innervation. So the Psoas Major is going to be innervated by the ventral rami of the lumbar nerve. All right, number two, we're looking for the iliacus. All right, and that is going to be innervated by the femoral nerve. And number three is going to be where those two muscles come together to form the iliopsoas. All right, and their action together is going to be flexing the hip and laterally rotating the hip. All right, number four, we have the tensor fasciae latae, or TFL. So that is going to aid with hip flexion, medial rotation of the hip, and abduction, abduction of the hip. At the knee, it's also going to help extend the knee and slight lateral rotation of the tibia, external rotation of the tibia. That's a very minor action that you don't need to worry too much about, but it does have it on your chart. All right, five. Oh, and the innervation for the tensor fasciae latae is going to be the superior gluteal nerve. Okay, so number five, we have the Sartorius. So the Sartorius is going to have a lot of actions. So it's going to flex the hip, abduct the hip, abduct the hip, laterally rotate the hip, and then at the knee, it'll help with knee flexion and slight medial rotation of the tibia. Again, one of those ones that kind of minor, you don't have to worry too much about. All right, and number six. So I put a little star at number six because if you look closely, if you compare the left and the right legs on this picture, that blue dot or teal dot and the green dot on the other side, so 13 and 6, they're pointing at the, similar places, but they are pointing at different muscles. So I'll skip over to 13 actually, is probably the one you might be thinking of, is going to be the rectus femoris. So you can see that the rectus femoris is going to be going up to the hip a little bit more. And if you compare it to number 6, which is going to be the vastus intermedius, right, you can see that it doesn't quite go up to the hip. So if you can see here, where I'm drawing that, you can see the bone actually. So you can't see it on the other side because the rectus femoris is lying on top, but the vastus intermedius is going to be deep. So make sure you keep that in mind. So skipping over to number 13 real quick, the rectus femoris is going to aid with hip flexion and knee extension and is innervated by the femoral nerve. And Sartorius is also innervated by femoral nerve. I don't know if I mentioned that. And vastus intermedius is also innervated by femoral nerve, and the vastus intermedius is going to extend the knee, along with number 7, which is vastus lateralis, and number 8, which is vastus medialis. Right? So the vastus lateralis, medialis, intermedius, and rectus femoris are the 4 muscles that make up your quadriceps. And they are all going to extend the knee. And the rectus femoris, since it crosses over the hip joint, it is also going to help with hip flexion. And they're all innervated by the femoral nerve. All right, number 9. So I kind of drew a little triangle-ish there, so you could kind of see exactly where I'm indicating. Number 9 is going to be the Adductor Magnus. And the Adductor Magnus, it is going to have 2 parts. Right now I'm just indicating Adductor Magnus, but this is going to be the adductor part up here. And the adductor part is going to flex the hip, while the hamstring part is going to extend the hip. And the adductor part is innervated by the obturator nerve, while the hamstring part is innervated by the tibial branch of the sciatic notch. So the hamstring part is going to be seen more posteriorly, but just keep that in mind. I don't think I have it marked on this picture, but go ahead and to visible body and make sure you take a look at that as well. All right. Number 10 is going to be the Adductor Longus. So Adductor Longus is going to adduct the hip and also medially rotate the hip. And it is innervated by the obturator nerve. Number 11, hopefully you can see in that purple, very, very small muscle in here, is going to be Adductor Brevis. Adductor Brevis is going to help with adducting the hip, adduct, adduction, and is also innervated by the obturator nerve. And lastly, number 12 is going to be the Pectineus. And the Pectineus is going to adduct the hip and flex the hip, and is innervated by the femoral nerve. Right, so hopefully that wasn't too bad for the anterior view. If you need to go back and review anything, feel free. Otherwise, we will move on to the posterior side. All right, so So here we have the posterior view of the hip and upper leg, thigh. So a bunch more muscles here, same thing. A is ID, name the muscle, B is actions, and C is innervations. So most of these, most of the ones on the left side are ask for all three. And these ones over here, you don't have to worry about innervations for those. Right, so go ahead and pause the video, go through some of these, and we'll come back and review them. All right, so hopefully you were able to go through those without too much of an issue, and we will go through them now. All right, so, all right, number 14. So I kind of tried to draw a little bit of a dotted line there to indicate that it's separated from number 15. So hopefully you could see that. But that is going to be the Gluteus Medius. And the Gluteus Medius is going to help with abduction and medial rotation of the hip. And 15 is Gluteus Maximus. Right, and that's going to aid in hip extension, lateral rotation of the hip, and the Gluteus Medius is innervated by the superficial gluteal nerve, and the Gluteus Maximus is innervated by the inferior gluteal nerve. All right, number 16. So number 16 is going to be the Biceps Femoris long head. And the Biceps Femoris long head is going to extend the hip and flex the knee. It is the Biceps Femoris is innervated by the tibial branch of the sciatic nerve. All right, number 17 is going to be the Semitendinosus. And the Semitendinosus is going to extend the hip and flex the knee. And oops. All right, so sorry, I made a little bit of an error. So numbers 17 and 18, it should just be one. That's why I put them as the same color. Got carried away with my numbering. So I'm just gonna take out number 18. So hopefully you caught that. If not, no worries, that was my mistake. So 17 and, or you know, now what I labeled as 17, both those green dots are going to be the Semitendinosus, so it's lying underneath number 19, which we will go through. But yeah, so just ignore number 18 now. Sorry about that. So number 19 is going to be the semitendinosus. Right, so that lies on top of the semimembranosus. All right, and that is also going to extend the hip and flex the knee. And it, both of those muscles are innervated by the tibial branch of the sciatic nerve. So hopefully that was clear. So number 20, I also have two different labels here. So number 20 is one that we saw on the other side. So hopefully you picked up on that on the anterior side. And I labeled this extra part, the little like squished circle oval. That's going to be, so 20 is going to be the Adductor Magnus, as we saw before. And just that lower portion is going to be kind of where the hamstring portion lies. I wanted to point that out. Right, and yeah, we went through this before, but we'll say, you know, the hamstring part helps with extending the hip, but the adductor magnus as a whole is going to adduct the hip, adduct, since it's an adductor. All right, hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Sorry about some of those mishaps, but hopefully you caught it. All right, so oops. All over the place. Okay. All right, number 21. So that little one, it's going to be facing more medially. I just figured I'd squeeze it in there so I didn't have to do another view, but hopefully you could see that. Number 21 is going to be the gracilis. All right, so the gracilis is going to also adduct the hip and is innervated by the obturator nerve. And it's also going to assist with knee flexion as well. All right, hopefully not too many more mishaps here. All right, so now we're going to move over to the right side, our right side. All right, number 22. So number 22 is going to be the Gluteus Minimus. So that's going to help with abduction of the hip and medial rotation of the hip. Hopefully you've noticed that when I say abduct versus adduct, you know, obviously the words are abduct and adduct. It's just sometimes hard to you know, differentiate with, you know, different people talking. So we tend to say abduct for abduct and adduct for adduct. So hopefully it's not too confusing. All right, and oh, okay. So I should have said C here. So Gluteus Minimus, you do have to know that innervation. That one's going to be innervated by the superior gluteal nerve. All right, number 23 is going to be the Piriformis. I'm going to put it here as well. And the Piriformis is going to assist with lateral rotation as well as abduction. Number 24 is going to be the superior gemellus. That's also going to assist with lateral rotation and abduction. Next, we have obturator internus. Again, lateral rotation and abduction. Inferior gemellus, or the gemellus inferior, inferior gemellus, either way works. Same with superior. You can say superior gemellus or gemellus superior. It's on visible body, it gives the directional term first, and on your sheet it gives the gemellus first. So either way is okay. And number 26. So yeah, gemellus inferior, lateral rotation and abduction. And then number 26, we have, let's see here. Oh, okay, sorry, number 27 is going to be, right, sorry about that. So yeah, so to number 27 is going to be the Quadratus Femoris. Talk about something there in a second. Okay, so the Quadratus Femoris is only going to laterally rotate the hip. All right, so I wrote the letters over here as well because a lot of the times we'll remember these muscles as the P go-go cues. So You have the piriformis, gemellus superior, obturator internus, gemellus inferior, and then obturator externus is one that we cannot see in this view, on this model, but it is still going to laterally rotate the hip. It doesn't abduct, just lateral rotation. But, you know, we remember it as P, go, go, Qs. So the P, go, go, Qs all together are going to laterally rotate the hip, right? And then P, gog, so P, the first go, and then the second G are going to abduct the hip as well. So hopefully that's not too confusing. Hopefully you already know it. All right, and you don't have to worry about innervations for those muscles, and that covers everything. So I'm sorry for a couple of the mishaps, but hopefully you have got everything down. If you have any questions, as always, come to Open Lab, go to office hours, and keep on reviewing the muscles. All right, hope you have a good one.